My wife cheated. Called him coach on the baby monitor. That was the moment my marriage died. My mom found out about my wife cheating and said that since the children are grown, it's time to go out. Yeah. That line was the starter pistol for the weirdest, ugliest marathon of my life. I'm Ethan, 38. She's Madison, Maddie, 36. We've been together since community college, 2 kids who are technically adults now. Ava, 19, and Cole, 21. Mortgage almost tamed, retirement account set to crawl, weekends reserved for Costco and soccer on TV. We were painfully normal. That's important because it kept me sleepy. Sleepy people miss things. The first sign was small, dumb, almost cute. A text from Melanie, at 1:17 a.m. Maddie laughed in that breathy way she does when she reads spicy memes. Phone face down after. I wouldn't have thought twice except she said, "It's just Mel from Pilates, and she doesn't take Pilates. She's a spin girl." I even joked, "Is Pilates code for gossip?" She kissed my cheek and said, "You're so paranoid, Ethan." Paranoid didn't fit me, but the word felt like a sticky note on my forehead. Then came the perfume. Not hers. I know Maddie sent the way you know your own kitchen in the dark. This was sharper, expensive, like citrus arguing with smoke. It clung to her hoodie after a late staff meeting. She shrugged. New fabric softener. We don't use fabric softener. It was almost funny how easily the lies stretched to cover holes. Almost. I clocked other tiny things. Hairband on her wrist she didn't buy. Songs in her playlist she used to clown on. Slow R&B, the kind that sounds like whispered confessions. A second water bottle in her trunk. A gym receipt posted at 11:54 p.m. Who works out at midnight? Vampires and people who don't want to be seen. Meanwhile I'm spiraling in the most boring way. Running the dishwasher, folding towels, convincing myself I'm overreacting because, what? I miss the chaos of having little kids? I kept finding reasons to be wrong. That's how denial works. It hands you decoys and calls them solutions. Mom felt it before I admitted it. She'd watch Maddie breeze in late, kiss the air, toss out, "Love you," like confetti. After dinner one night, Mom took my plate, squeezed my shoulder and said, "If the truth hurts, it's still the truth." I laughed it off. The next day the baby monitor happened. That's when normal finally snapped. It was a Saturday game night at our friend's place. Dylan and Harper, new baby, fancy soundbar, charcuterie situation that made you feel underdressed. Around 10 Maddie and Dylan both say they'll check on the baby. Normal enough. Except Harper stayed chatting with us, unbothered. A few minutes later, the baby monitor on the counter crackled like an old radio tuning to bad news. At first it was white noise, then a whisper I knew better than my own. Maddie's laugh, breathy, guilty cute, the one she used to save for me. Then a man's voice, low, joking about how quiet the nursery was. The mic on those monitors is good. Every small sound felt 6 inches from my ear. Fabric rustling. A kiss that sounded like a secret being opened. Her saying, 5 minutes. You promised. Him saying, couldn't wait after last night. He called her M. She called him coach. I froze. Everyone else did that Midwest thing where you pretend nothing weird is happening until it goes away. It didn't. He murmured, "Same hotel?" She whispered, "Back entrance, room 214, leave the key in the plant." Then a tiny sound I'll never unhear, not graphic, just intimate. Like the word mind spoken without words. I put down my glass so carefully you'd think it was a bomb. Harper's face went paper white. She lunged and killed the monitor. "Static," she said to the room. Nobody believed it. I excused myself, walked to the driveway and stood in the cold. You know when the world gets too sharp? Streetlights felt like judgment. My phone buzzed. Text from Melanie, running late. Car trouble. Love you. At 10:11 p.m. While Maddie was upstairs, checking the baby. When Maddie reappeared, her lipstick looked freshly smudged and fixed, like an apology done in a rearview mirror. She wrapped her arms around my waist. "You okay?" she asked, voice all concern. I could smell that citrus smoke perfume again, now threaded with something warm and wrong. "Who's coach?" I asked. She blinked like a stage light hit her. "What?" "From the monitor," I said. "He called you him. You said room 214. Her face did this tiny calculation. Panic, pivot, performance. "Ethan, no. That was Dylan." He stressed. "We were talking about the hotel for Harper's sister's bridal thing." She didn't even breathe between lies. "And coach is an inside joke because you're always coaching Cole about resumes." I didn't say anything. Silence is my new favorite tool. It makes truth skid on the floor. She doubled down, annoyed now. "Why are you making this weird?" You always do this when mom's around, like you have to prove something. I nodded like I was thinking it over. Inside, my stomach was eating itself. I scrolled Melanie's thread under the table later, discovered new photos, cropped shoulders, a hotel lamp I recognized, captions like "You're bad for me, keep being bad." The name Melanie didn't fit the voice from the monitor. Neither did the scent or the midnight gym receipts. I didn't sleep. I remembered mom's hand on my shoulder. If the truth hurts, it's still the truth. Around 3 a.m. I stopped arguing with reality and started backing it up. That's when I discovered the second phone. At 3 a.m., while Maddie fake slept in her mascara, I went hunting for reality. Her toad had a false bottom. Who even thinks to check that? And there it was. A skinny black phone with a screen protector bubbled like a lie. No passcode. Whole secret life unlocked by a thumb swipe. Messages from Al. Photos of forearms, the hotel lamp I'd already clocked, her necklace between unfamiliar fingers. Voice notes, his voice low and gravelly, calling her mad and brat, telling her to be good for coach. He signed off as Logan. Contact photo? A gym selfie with a whistle. My chest went cold. Logan is the assistant coach at Cole's old high school. We used to see him at booster events. He asked me for grilling tips once. I sat at the kitchen island and laid both phones in front of me like evidence bags. At 6:12 a.m., Maddie patted in, hair in a careless knot, one of my shirts hanging off her shoulder like it belonged to her story more than to me. She smiled, then saw the phones, then saw my face. "What is this?" she said, already angry. "Not sorry. Angry." "Truth," I said. "Sit." She went brazen first. "You went through my stuff? That's abuse, Ethan." She pointed at my chest. "You've been distant for months, and now you're making up stories because you're bored." I tapped the secret phone and pressed play on a voice note. Logan whispering, 20 minutes, room 214. "Wear that hoodie I like. Be good." Her own voice followed, breathy, "I can only stay an hour. He thinks it's Pilates." Maddie's face slumped, then tightened. She pivoted to performance so fast it gave me whiplash. Okay, it looks bad," she said, hands up, watery smile. "But it's not like that. Logan has been helping me with a surprise for you. The hotel was for planning. The pictures are jokes. You know how I joke." I didn't speak. The silence made her scramble. She moved closer, grabbed my wrist. "Baby, please. I messed up once, okay twice, but it didn't mean anything. I was drunk after Harper's thing and he kissed me and I panicked. I tried to end it. I swear. Please, Ethan." Tears now. Knees on cool tile. Hands in prayer. "I will block him right now. I'll change jobs. I'll call his girlfriend. I will burn it all down. Just don't leave me." Then the mask slipped again, anger flashing like a blade. "You're not perfect either," she hissed, standing. "You ignore me. You coach everyone but your own wife. What was I supposed to do?" "Logan listens." "Logan called you brat on a baby monitor," I said. "In Dylan's house. While Harper fed us olives and we pretended to be civilized." She crumpled. Full ugly crying. "I hate myself," she said. "I'll do anything. Therapy, church, lie detector, whatever. I'm so scared, Ethan. Don't do this to our family." I kept seeing my son's face when he first kicked a ball into a net, me yelling from the sidelines, Coach Logan clapping next to me. The betrayal moved in layers. Wife, friend, community. I swallowed. "You start by giving me every password. Both phones stay on the table. And you tell me everything. All of it." She nodded so hard her hair came loose. "Everything," she said. "I swear." Then, "Can I have a hug?" I stood up. I didn't move. She hugged me like a drowning person clinging to a buoy, and for a second I wanted to pull her close and pretend the ocean hadn't opened. Instead I listened. She told me everything, or at least the version she wanted me to swallow. Nights at the office, whispered meetups in empty gym showers, an Etsy account with weird lingerie she claimed was for a friend, receipts from a motel across town, and a credit card charge for a couple's workshop, with a name that made me laugh and ache at the same time. Reignite. She cried as she named them, like each confession unclenched a fist of guilt. Dad called that morning, voice gravelly from work. "You good, son?" He didn't know what to say to no. Mom sat with me for 2 hours, tea gone cold, and told me stories about my dad's own screw-ups, long-buried affairs Aunt June still whispers about at holidays. "Marriage is messy, Ethan," she said, "but you decide what mess you can live with." Her hands shook when she said it. I wanted that messy safety net, but something in me had shifted. The floor under us had become a courtroom. I tried the halfway house, pretend forgiveness. We went to a counselor Maddie picked because she wanted neutral help, sat in a room that smelled like disinfectant and second chances, and watched her cry and promise and then schedule a work dinner with Logan the next week. I tried to believe her when she said, "I want to fix this," but belief felt like a muscle I hadn't exercised in years. Every time she laughed at a text or checked her phone, panic shortened my breath like someone tightening a belt. She was brazen in front of others, playing the wounded saint to our friends while slipping into pet names with Logan in voice notes I found later. She lied with the calm of someone who had practiced. She begged with the urgency of someone who wanted a reset without paying the price. I oscillated between rage, flinging plates in the garage, pounding fists into pillows, and a ridiculous, tender grief for the woman who once danced in our kitchen at midnight, barefoot and terrible at rhythm. That woman felt buried under someone who learned how to perform contrition. At night I'd lie awake and list the things I'd been: husband, coach, dad, reliable. The thought that I might have been boring, predictable, stung like an admission. Had I been too safe? Had I failed to keep her curious? Those questions were knives she didn't deserve the credit for. The real wound was less about what I'd done wrong and more about what she chose to take instead of repair. I tried living with it. For a while I did. I made dinners, I cheered at Cole's games, I pretended trust was a bridge we could rebuild one plank at a time. But forgiveness without truth is a leaky boat. The lies kept surfacing, new receipts, changed passwords, a weekend trip she forgot to mention. Each new secret slammed the hatch shut a little more on whatever naive optimism I'd tried to resuscitate. There's a moment in every disaster where you stop scooping water and start building a raft. Mine came on a Tuesday when Maddie texted, "Working late, don't wait up red heart," and I was staring at a hotel receipt that said otherwise. Something went quiet in me. Not numb, focused. Revenge used to sound like fireworks, now it sounded like zippers and printers. I made a folder called Paper Trail and fed it like a stray cat. Screenshots, bank logs, the baby monitor audio Harper airdropped me after her shaky apology. I thought it was a one-off. "Ethan, I'm so sorry." I pulled our phone records. Melanie had perfect overlap with Logan's number from a booster email. I opened a P.O. box, slid some cash into a new account, and scheduled a consult with a lawyer named Ortiz who greeted me with tissues and bullet points. "Don't tip your hand," she said. "Exit clean or don't exit." It felt less like revenge and more like choosing gravity. Maddie kept cycling her routines. Angry when cornered, sobbing when I pulled away, sweet when she wanted to reset the scoreboard. She begged on her knees in the kitchen. "I'll quit. I'll delete everything." Then an hour later snapped that I was weaponizing morality, a phrase she probably cribbed from a podcast. I almost laughed. I didn't. Mom started Operation Go Out. She showed up with lipstick and courage. "Kids are grown," she said. "Time to go out." We hit a diner, split pie, and she mapped the next month on a napkin. Lease leads, storage unit, movers who don't ask questions. Dad offered his pickup in the kind of quiet that feels like a fortress. Then the skeletons busted out of closets like they were late for a parade. Harper admitted the hen night story I'd heard whispers about wasn't rumor. Maddie had slipped away with Logan that night too, same hotel lamp. Tammy, my mother-in-law, called to say I was being cruel by withholding forgiveness. Then accidentally revealed Maddie once moved a credit card balance to one in Tammy's name to hide it. Rick, my father-in-law, muttered something about the women in this family running hot, and went back to ESPN. Jace, her brother, demed me, "Bro, don't burn her. We all make mistakes," which is rich from a guy who once pawned his fiancée's ring to cover a parley. I stopped arguing with their circus. I planned. Silent move. I found a small place near the trailheads, signed the lease under my P.O. box, and stacked boxes in the garage labeled with decoy words, Christmas lights, old textbooks, so she wouldn't snoop. Ortiz drew me a list: photograph assets, copy tax returns, freeze joint cards the day I go. I put my ring in a little bowl I carved in shop class, and every morning it looked less like failure and more like a key I was about to return. The last straw wasn't dramatic. It was a calendar alert: Coach, nooner. No euphemism, no shame. She lied to my face that night, eyes shining, swore she'd been at Pilates. I'm not a judge, but the gavel fell anyway. I set my move date. I let the truth be heavy and climbed under it until it felt like armor. I picked a Thursday because Thursdays look harmless. Movers rolled up at 7 a.m. like ninjas. Ortiz's recommendation: black shirts, no small talk. I'd already staged the boxes: Christmas lights, old textbooks, Cole's jerseys. Maddie was in the shower humming that R&B track she used to clown, and I felt this weird surgical calm. I snapped photos of everything: Tools, TV, that heirloom clock her dad swore I didn't appreciate. I left a folder on the table labeled Truth. Inside, phone logs, hotel receipts, a transcript of the baby monitor audio, screenshots of Melanie/Logan, a copy of the lease at my new place, and a single line in my handwriting: I'm choosing gravity. She came out in a towel, saw the half-empty living room, and detonated. You're abandoning us, she screamed, then dropped to her knees on the rug, mascara rivers, clutching my belt like a lifeline. Please, Ethan, please, I'll block him, change numbers, delete socials. Just don't humiliate me. The oscillation was whiplash, rage, performance, pleading. We're family, she sobbed, forehead to my shoes. I wanted to remember her as the girl who danced in the kitchen. Instead I got this Broadway. I'm not humiliating you, I said. I'm just refusing to be humiliated. That's when the skeletons started sprinting. Harper texted, you should know Logan was at the same hotel with 2 other moms this spring. Check April 12th. She attached a pic of that cursed lamp. My phone dinged again. Ava, our daughter. Mom told me you're overreacting. Is that true? I sent her the Truth PDF. 10 minutes later she called crying, Dad, I'm coming to you. Cole did the angry son thing. How could you leave? Until I forwarded a single screenshot. Silence. Then, I'm sorry. I didn't know. Maddie's family made it worse. Tammy called to say I was abusive for moving without a joint healing plan. Then she slipped and admitted she'd co-signed a secret card for Maddie, so Ethan wouldn't judge. Rick texted a thumbs up emoji and, I kid you not, a parley pic. Jace DM'd, don't go nuclear, bro. We all make mistakes. I typed and deleted 12 replies before landing on, boundaries aren't nuclear, they're plumbing. I didn't go full scorched earth, but I let receipts speak. When Maddie posted a selfie with a working late flexed biceps sparkles caption, I quietly emailed her boss the time-stamped hotel invoices attached to her corporate card and copied HR. Not to ruin her, just to end the lying theater. Ortiz said, don't comment. Paper only. So I stayed boring and devastating. Petty but healing. Maddie kept asking for dog updates like nothing had happened. I sent them, collages of Tank doing his business under inspirational captions. Every end is a new beginning. Tank looked proud. It made me smile for the first time in months. Unexpected twist. Logan's fiancé, because yep, he had one, messaged me after my quiet email trail pinged around town. I'm 8 weeks pregnant, she wrote. Thank you for telling me before I found out the hard way. I felt sick and oddly relieved, like corruption had sunlight on it now. By 11 p.m., my side of the closet was a clean echo. I set my ring in the little bowl I'd carved in shop class, slid the Truth folder to the center of the table, and walked out into air that didn't feel borrowed. The door clicked shut like a period at the end of a sentence I'd been scared to write. First night in my new place, silence had a weight. No dryer thumping at midnight, no phone face down buzzing like a trapped insect. Tank sprawled across the cheap rug like he'd been waiting for me to remember my own name. I made bad eggs, sat on a box, and read the Truth folder like it belonged to someone else. Revenge didn't feel like gasoline anymore, it felt like locks changing. Fallout landed fast. HR put Maddie on leave pending review. She rage texted, you're destroying my career. Then 2 hours later, please Ethan, I will do anything, just meet me. She cycled through every mask, angry, angelic, pleading, sometimes in a single paragraph. I muted her and forwarded everything to Ortiz. Paper only. Logan resigned from the school. The statement said health reasons, but everyone knew. Harper texted me a screenshot of the mom's group chat melting down like a soap opera. Unexpected twist. Logan's fiancée Lena wasn't bluffing. She sent me a photo of a sonogram, 8 weeks, and a single line. Thank you for the receipts. I'm moving out. I stared at the grainy smudge and felt a complicated ache, tragedy in stereo. Ava crashed at my place with a duffel and fury. She cried on my shoulder, then went quiet cold in that way only daughters can. Cole took longer. Football loyalty and pride glued him to the old house. He came over after practice, stood in my doorway in his dusty cleats and said, I thought you overreacted. I handed him a mug in silence. He sat. Sometimes that's all reconciliation needs. A chair and no lies. Maddie's family went full carnival. Tammy left me a 4-minute voicemail that started with prayer and ended with threats about ruining Maddie's reputation. Rick texted me a link to a sports bet with the caption, Lock of the week moneybag. Jay sent, bro, this is between lovers, don't involve jobs. I typed, deleted, settled on. Consequences are just facts arriving on time. Mom executed Operation Go Out. Thursday night, lipstick diner pie, and a napkin battle plan for a life that had room for me. Dad showed up with his pickup and a toolbox, fixed 3 things I'd been ignoring, and then sat on the tailgate drinking ginger ale, saying nothing like it was wisdom. Maybe it was. I built routines that didn't revolve around bracing. Morning trail runs where frost stitched the grass and breath turned into steam. A Saturday woodshop class where I learned to plane a board without tearing the grain. Tiny shavings, patient as therapy. I signed up for a weekend bus trip to the mountains, $12 round trip, a hostel bunk, a trail that promised a lake clear enough to show you your own face. It did. I ate a gas station sandwich by the water and realized I wasn't rehearsing arguments in my head for the first time in months. Petty but healing continued. Dog poop collages with inspirational quotes. Progress, not perfection. Tank looked like a philosopher. Harper sent back a cry laugh emoji and an apology dinner invite. I went, wary and grateful. She confessed Dylan knew pieces and had been too cowardly to say it out loud. "We're getting our house in order," she said, eyes wet. Late one night, Maddie showed up at my complex gate, mascara streaked, anger bright. "You win," she spat, then slid down the fence, sobbing. "Please don't let them fire me. I'll never talk to him again." The weirdest part? I believed she believed it right then. But belief isn't a bank you can rob and expect it to keep paying out. I handed her Ortiz's letter about separation terms through the bars and said the truest sentence I've ever managed. "I'm not here to win, Maddie. I'm here to stop losing." Revenge used to live in my head like a blockbuster, shouting, slamming doors, grand speeches. Turns out, the quiet kind is meaner and merciful at the same time. Paper. Locks. Boundaries. I stopped telling, started showing. First, I met Ortiz in a sterile conference room that smelled like copier ink and endings. We drafted a separation agreement with bulletproof lines. Finances frozen, joint cards closed, temporary custody of Tank, yes, the dog got a clause, and a digital behavior section that read like a parole sheet. No spoof accounts, no fake Melanie S. Full device transparency during discovery. "You aren't punishing her," Ortiz said, tapping the document. "You're protecting you." Then I let the receipts walk on their own 2 legs. When Maddie floated a Facebook post about forgiveness and growth, I didn't subtweet, I didn't rage. I uploaded a folder to a private link labeled "For Family Who Want Facts," sent it to parents and siblings on both sides and muted the thread. Tammy replied with a prayer hands emoji and "We will not be participating in slander," then accidentally CC'd me on an email asking her church friend about reputation management. Rick asked if I could Venmo him $200 until payday. I sent him the separation clause that says I'm not a bank. Jace texted coward. I texted back a photo of the motel receipt with his name listed as a witness signature for checkout. He left the chat. The skeletons didn't just fall, they tangoed. A collections letter arrived for a card I didn't recognize. Ortiz traced it. Maddie had opened it with Tammy as the co-signer 6 months earlier. I pictured my mother-in-law in a bank office, elbow deep in a lie, nodding like she was doing me a favor. Tragic in its own small way, they built a raft out of each other's boundaries and paddled it toward a waterfall. Community fallout was its own soap. The booster club dissolved like cotton candy in rain. Dylan called, apologizing between gulps. "Man, I heard it on my own baby monitor and still did nothing." Harper invited me for pasta and the kind of apology that comes with eye contact. Logan vanished. Lena, his fiancée, sent a final message, "Moving home with my sister. Not asking for advice, but if you have any," I typed, "choose gravity." She sent a heart and a picture of a packed car. I kept my world small and clean. Morning runs under streetlights. Lunches that crunched, celery is therapy if you chew with intent. Woodshop on Tuesdays, my hands learning new muscle memory that wasn't checking her phone. I made a walnut keepsake box with finger joints so tight it squeaked when it closed. I put my ring inside. It looked like a relic from a shipwreck, sad and dignified. I didn't chase a rebound. Not because I was noble, because I was tired of making noise. Then randomness. At the trailhead bulletin board, a woman was taping up a flyer for a community hike. Navy beanie, mud on her boots, laughing at her own crooked staple job. She said her name was Nora. I said mine without apologizing for it. We walked the first mile with strangers, then drifted apart. No numbers. Just a mile where my brain forgot to rehearse the past. Maddie kept oscillating. One day she was at my door with daisies and a handwritten letter, eyes huge, "Please Ethan, I am so broken." The next she sent a typed list of my failures as a husband, that included, never learned TikTok dances. I stood in the doorway and let the wind take her letter like a leaf. I want you to heal, I said, but not here. She sank to her knees on the concrete, palms up like a penitent, whispering, just tell me what to do. I closed the door gently. Some prayers aren't mine to answer. The separation hearing was anticlimactic. No gavel thunder, just Ortiz speaking in calm paragraphs while Maddie dabbed at her eyes and glared at me between blots. HR had already done its thing, resignation in lieu of termination. She told everyone she left to prioritize mental health. Maybe that's true. Maybe it's spin. Both can be real. I moved my ring into the walnut box I made in woodshop, slid the lid shut, and felt the squeak like a seal on a jar of preserves, summer fruit saved for winter. My apartment stopped looking like a storage locker and started looking like a person lived there. Books by the door. A mug I actually like. Tank's bed not exiled to the laundry room but right by the couch like he's a roommate with better boundaries than I ever had. Mom doubled down on Operation Go Out. We did trivia at O'Malley's like teenagers with better shoes. She dragged Dad along and he ended up on a stool telling the bartender how to fix the wobbly shelf. My folks don't do speeches but the way they kept showing up felt louder than any toast. Dad handed me a crumpled 20 and said, for the jukebox. I played Springsteen and didn't apologize to the Gen Zs side-eyeing us. Ava started coming over on Sundays to cook boxed mac like it's an heirloom recipe. Cole thawed. He confessed he DM'd Logan a paragraph of pure righteous 21-year-old fury and then blocked him. I didn't tell him I cried in the bathroom after he left. Manly cry, quiet, door locked, Tank standing guard. Maddie's family kept being themselves. Tammy posted a Facebook Live about forgiveness warriors, then texted me privately asking if I'd cover a small balance on the secret card she and Maddie opened. I sent her the clause again. Rick sent another parley, lock of the year locked money bag. I sent him nothing. Jace's skeleton finally tripped him. His fiancée posted a picture of an empty ring box with the caption, pawn shops don't do returns, do they, Jay? He rage texted me like I'd done it. I didn't reply. Gravity doesn't need cheerleaders. Here's the part one didn't expect. The revenge urge faded like a bruise. Boundaries did the job without me having to keep feeding the fire. I kept running. I added Saturday market mornings and learned 3 ways to cook mushrooms. I built a coffee table with joinery so clean it felt like an apology to every splintered thing in my life. Then I took that $12 bus to the mountains. Hostile bunk, earplugs, a towel that smelled like other people's lives. I hit the trail before sunup. Frost laced the meadow. The lake at mile 5 held the sky like a rumor. I stood there and heard nothing. No internal courtroom, no invisible jury. Just wind and a stubborn little heartbeat that for once wasn't arguing with itself. On the way down I saw Navy Beanie again, Nora, pinning another hike flyer to a trailhead board. We did that half smile of people who share a secret mile. You ever come out with the group? She asked. Sometimes, I said. I'm practicing being new at things. She laughed and it didn't feel like a test I had to pass. When I got home there was a card under my door. From Maddie. Handwritten messy, I'm in therapy. I'm sorry. If you ever want to try again I'll wait. I set it in the walnut box next to the ring. Not as a promise. As a record. I grilled for Ava and Cole on the tiny balcony that night, Tank supervising like a foreman. I didn't hover over my phone. I didn't edit myself down to fit into someone else's shrinking story. For the first time in months, I went to bed without rehearsing what I'd say if she showed up crying. I slept. Real sleep like a door clicked softly in my chest. Next morning Mom texted, proud of you. Time to go out again? Maybe it is. 1 more mile. 1 more cut of wood. 1 more day where I choose gravity over noise. The tragic part happened. The rest is craft. Final hearing stamped our separation orders in 12 minutes flat. No thunderclap, no applause, just a judge with a pen and me with a pulse. Walking out, I expected cinematic triumph. What I got was a quiet, breathable afternoon. Sun on my forearms. Tank's head out the truck window like he was sniffing for the future. Maddie tried one last encore, showed up with daisies, knelt on my doormat, promised she'd cut him off forever, then slipped and said we about Logan's fiancée's baby. That's when I understood the tragedy. She was addicted to the stage, not the person standing in the wings. I helped her up and said, heal well, and locked the door. Not a slammed door, just locked. The revenge arc ended, not with fire, but with paperwork and patience. Boundaries did what flamethrowers never could. They made space. And in that space I started stacking a life like clean lumber. Woodshop on Tuesdays. Learned to trust a sharp chisel in my own hands again. Trail runs on cold mornings, lungs burning honest. Market Saturdays where I buy mushrooms I can't pronounce and try new recipes without apologizing for burning the first batch. I built that walnut coffee table, and when the joint seated with a soft thunk, it felt like an oath. I can make something strong that doesn't hide its seams. Family settled into their true forms. Mom keeps Operation Go Out alive. Trivia nights, diner pie, the occasional shameless karaoke where she bullies me into Springsteen. Dad fixes whatever's loose in my apartment and never asks for details. His silence is still the safest room I know. Ava calls me when her car makes a noise. Cole sends me Jim PRs. We all pretend Tank is immortal. On the other side, Tammy alternates between scripture and subtweets. Rick is still chasing parleys like salvation. Jace went quiet after his fiancée's post about the pawn shop. Their circus kept spinning and I simply walked past the tent. Unexpected plot twist I won't oversell. I see Nora on the trail sometimes. We trade snacks and miles, that's it. No declarations, no additions. She laughs like she doesn't owe anyone a performance. Maybe it becomes a chapter. Maybe it stays a footnote. Either way it's light. What I learned in case someone needs a map. Your gut isn't dramatic, it's data. The truth hurts, it's still the truth. Collect it. Don't argue with it. Revenge feels loud. Recovery is quiet. Pick the quiet. Paper beats panic. Locks beat speeches. Boundaries aren't punishment, they're plumbing. They keep the clean water from mixing with the sewer. You're not boring because you're steady. You're safe. Anyone who confuses the two may be chasing fireworks instead of warmth. Heal in small, stubborn ways. 1 mile, 1 cut, 1 good meal. Craft your days like joinery, intentional, tight, honest. For the record, I wasn't the perfect husband, she wasn't the cartoon villain. But she lied and chose thrill over repair, and I chose gravity over drama. If you're reading this in the dark with your stomach in a fist, here's my whole advice. Make a folder, make a plan, make a door. Then walk through it. The tragic part isn't the end, it's the edit. The rest is you, hands steady, breath counting, building something true.